All right, we got 1 minute, peoples. 1 minute to showtime. 1 minute to glory. Oh, God. No one heard that at all. Let me just turn off all the sound in the world. My phone is off. This is on. And we are ready. Take one last sip of water. What the hell did I get myself into? All right. This is the 45th minute of the 8th hour in the Central Time Zone. My name is Tree60 No Scope, and welcome to Quiet Living by Blacksyth. Parental advisory. Explicit content. If you are a parent, you are being advised. Because you're just being advised because you're a parent. Page 1 of 29. Chapter 1. My life versus yours. Lights. Something I have not experienced in years. Most people have that light in their eye. But what am I supposed to look forward to? Clearly not this guy humping me. This guy can fuck off. Leave, move, please, move. I don't want you fucking teabagging in my ass. Can someone arrest this guy, please? Get him out of here. This is unconsented. Oh, try the thing now. Get him. I still don't have access. Please get him out of. I would like this guy to leave because while this is explicit content in the book, I would not like to make explicit content outside of the book. That's illegal. There we go. All right. Get out of here. Nerd. I thought this was a dope event. Kai explicitly asked me for it. Okay. Nice. Thank you. Now we can get back to the book so I can't get humped. Where were we? Lights. Something I have not experienced in years. Most people have that light in their eye. But what am I supposed to look forward to? Another endless day of production towards nothing. Well, I wouldn't say nothing. Death. That's what we're working towards. I just want it all to be over. I spent my entire life doing nothing. When you're a failure, what do you work for? What do you strive for? Well, the reason I asked is because I met a girl the other day. A wonderful girl. The only person I was able to see in color, which I haven't done since my mother died. She came up to me and asked,
why do you always look so sad? Wanna come meet with me?
I looked back and nodded, but I talked to no one. No one. Her name was Rias. I've seen her around school, but no one really seems to like her. She is nice to everyone, but they always ignored her. I would even notice that some people would talk about her when she wasn't looking. They would say things like, "Oh, look at her, Little Miss Perfect," or "That bitch, that little bitch, just thinks she's better than all of us." But she never did anything to them. Anything but I mind her own business. Good grammar. But that's not my problem. I keep to me and only me. Chapter 2. How it feels to be in my skin. I was born in Okinawa to my mother who had health problems her entire life. She tried to ignore her problems, but she could never get away from them. By the time I was 5, she had fallen sick again, and 2 days before my birthday, I got a call from my grandfather who told me that my mother had passed away while I was in a shogoi match. When I arrived home, my father was on the phone with some man. He got off the phone and turned around. He looked at me and he said, "You pitiful child, how could you have been born to such a wonderful woman?" I put my head down and I tried to act as if I wasn't there. My dad looked at me again and pounded his fist against the wall. "Get out! Such a disappointing child should not live in the house of such a perfect woman." I did as he told, and the entire time he continued to shout, "Out!" After I left, I stayed with people around my neighborhood, but I was always kicked out for being disrespectful. I wasn't meaning to, but because I never talked, it was seen as disrespectful. Finally, when I was 13, my grandfather found out what was happening and took me in. I've lived with my grandfather ever since. Chapter 3. Grandfather. My grandfather lives a humble life. My mother loved him very much, and he did her, but she felt in love with the tough, rich head of the family, my father. He tried to talk her out of it, but before he knew, his little girl was married and pregnant. She had her child, but just 6 short hospital-ridden years later, she ended up dying from complications of a brain injury. My grandfather was broken, but now he has to handle everything. He tried his best. He tried his best, but how his son-in-law acted, it was hard to continue. Finally, about a year after her death, he went into the mountains to escape. He did for about 8 years when he finally came back to the city, only to find his grandson to be homeless. He decided that in respect for his daughter, he would raise me. He often turns and looks at me with such pride in his eyes. I don't understand, considering that I haven't done anything to make him proud. But I love him. He only wishes that I would say more than hello and see you later to him every day. Chapter 4. A Tree. So that's how we've gotten to present day. So as usual, I said hello to my grandfather and off to school. And as I was walking, I saw Riz as she walked along with no care in the world until she saw me, and she cared a lot and ran over.
"Hey! How are you?"
she exclaimed. I looked back and smiled, but I only hoped she wouldn't continue asking questions. We kept on walking, and she started talking about the trees and pretty nature, and how pretty nature is. But after she asked,
"Isn't it so pretty?"
I just nodded. She realized that I do not talk to others, so please arrest this fucking buffoon and... Alright, thank you. Get rid of this guy. Get rid of this fucking nerd. Thank you. So she continued on talking and walking and swinging around until she asked if I wanted to eat lunch with her. I accepted. And so at lunchtime... Please mute. At lunchtime, she ran into my classroom and yelled, "Quiet one."
"Oh. Quiet one. Come on. It's lunch."
Everyone looked at me, and I just shuffled out of the room. As soon as we were out of the room, she grabbed my arm, and I ran unwillingly with her. She finally stopped when we reached the top of the hill. There was a lone oak tree standing. She laid out a cloth, much like you would put out on a table, and placed her lunchbox and another lunchbox on the cloth. I looked at her, then, with a puzzled look. You don't often seem to have a lunch, and you need to eat. I looked at her and smiled, and we both dug in. It was a really good meal, one I hadn't had since my mom made me food. As I was eating, a tear just fell out of my eye unwillingly, and she saw it. So for the rest of the afternoon, she spent wondering why I cried until I touched her and said, "Tag." We skipped the rest of class and ran around the rest of the afternoon. It was the best time of my life. I came home that afternoon and my grandfather said, "I hear you missed half of the school day." I turned, smiled, and nodded. "Well, I guess you had a good time." "Well, I guess you had a good time. It's fine once in a while. Just don't make it a habit." I turned and said, "Thank you very much." My grandfather looked at me with such surprise. He looked like he had just seen an alien, but considering how I said more than a word, it was sort of like he said, "Yippee! He said 4 words! He said 4 words! Count them! 1, 2, 3, 4 words! I love you so much, grandson. I hope you know that." I nodded. I love my grandfather, too. He had been the only one there for me, but I think he may not be the only one. That is the end of this story. This book is sold at books.co, written by Blacksyth. If you want a part 2 so you can finish the story, message Blacksyth. If there is enough demand, it will be released. My name is Tree60 Noscope. You can unmute, and thank you all very much for coming to tonight's session, which apparently I guess was not a CC event, but gets more people than a CC event. What the heck? Why am I not dope minister? I'm gonna riot. It's okay though. GG's.